Now I'm going to connect the wrist points with my bicep points to make kind of a tall, oblong-y, weird house shape. Okay, and again, these are guidelines. Some stuff is going to change once we put the elbow in, but this is now our kind of general shape for how this sleeve is going to be. Okay, now this is the fun part. The magic of geometry. We're going to take these diagonal lines at the cap and we're going to divide them into 4 equal segments. I could measure and divide by 4, but chances are you've got some strange like 16th or 32nd measurements up here and the math is not super fun. So I'm going to fold along this diagonal line at the top, matching A to E. Put a little crease. That'll give me a halfway point. If I take that little crease now and fold that little crease in half again, and put another crease, I'm basically folding this into 4s. I'm going to put a mark at each one of these creases so I can see it in case it flattens out. So I'm giving myself 3 marks that divide the section into 4 smaller sections. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm folding it in half first, and then I'm folding that half point to each point again. I actually like math, but some math is just not worth doing, especially this time, minute fractions. Okay, so I've got this divided into 4 equal sections. Okay, these are going to be labeled G, H, K, L, M, and N. Each of these points is labeled with a different letter. Okay, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be squaring short lines out from each of these levels. And there's specific lengths for each of those lines. The lengths are in the book, so you don't need to like furiously be writing them. Just look at the book. The photograph or the drawing illustrates what direction the lines go and how long they are, and then it's written out kind of longhand too. So depending on whether you're visual or whatnot. Okay, but how it's going to work is I'm going to look, and it says G, go in 3/8 of an inch. And if I look at the chart, there's a line going in 3/8 of an inch. So at the G level, I'm going to put my ruler so it's perpendicular to this diagonal line, and I'm going to square a line that's 3/8 inch long at G. I like to put kind of a little cross mark at the end so I know where that level really ends. If I just had a line ending, it's hard to really know because of the like pencil thickness and stuff. So H goes out 3/16 of an inch. And now each of these measurements are different, and that's on purpose. The cap, this bell shape that we're creating, it looks symmetrical, but it's actually a little bit different in the back than in the front. Okay, so K goes out 5/8 of an inch.
And these are the standard measurements for all form fibers for the sleeve?
I think so, because generally as you get larger or smaller, you're not necessarily getting taller or shorter. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like within average height, would be about the right shape and height. What would happen if you got larger or smaller is the bicep would flex and move. And if the bicep got wider, these increments would get wider. But the distances, higher or lower, would be about the same. Yeah, but for women's, for Missy, this is what it would be. For children's or men's, it would be different. Okay, so L, I'm going to square out 3/4 of an inch above the line. M is out 3/16. N is in 1/2. Okay, so you'll notice the bottom 2 marks go in, the top 2 marks on either side go above. Now, the book shows how to lay these French curves down. You can absolutely use one and then flip it, but I sometimes think it's helpful to have 2, so maybe borrow your neighbor's for a second so that you can see how they interact with each other, okay? So I'm going to, doesn't matter which side you start on, but I'm going to put one French curve with the curvy side going, the curly Q pointing downwards, and I'm going to set it down so it's touching A, L, and M. Okay, and the book shows you exactly what direction it sits. But you're going to kind of wiggle it around until it hits all 3 marks, A, L, and M. Okay? And I could, at this point, trace a line to meet all those things, but I think it's nice to see how it interacts. So I pulled out my second one. The next French curve would touch the same point at M, and then N, and then F. So they each have 3 points they're touching, and they share the middle point. So if I put this one down, it's kind of like a flip-flop version of the other. You see, I'm getting this lovely little S curve. Okay, so this is what we're going to want to do. We're going to use this top one to trace the first 3 dots. We're going to use the bottom one to trace the next leaf to get this great S curve.
We have French curves that aren't this designer French curve, and they hit those marks. Could we try to use those?
These are sort of this book is calibrated for this one.
Okay.
So if you don't have this one, then borrow for this portion of
Okay.
exercise. Same thing with the armholes. I would use these.
Okay.
So I've traced there.
So the other French curves, the ones that have like several different curves,
Those
I
are
mean,
for
it
like
has the
graphic
general
arts.
same large curve, right? Though.
I don't know.
Oh,
There's
they're just
hundreds of
different?
different designs
Yeah.
of French
Oh, okay.
curves.
They're
all
all the
different.
different sizes do different things.
Okay, so I've got my S curve there. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, just flipped over. So the top 3 marks get matched up, and the bottom 3 marks get matched up. The key is that they both hit at that H mark, and you'll see that they're going to kind of share line space for a little while. That's a good thing. We want this to be a smooth, even, blended curve. So I usually draw a little bit past, and then I draw a little bit past on the other side. So you see I drew a little bit past H. And if I do the same thing on this side, it'll really blend that curve in.